Hi, this is BK Black Krishna for manfulwars.com, where I'm promoting polite patriotism. I tell people stop being turned into rude, sketchy zombies who make it hard to talk and just want to make more. And instead, be nice, polite ladies and gents who can show and get respect and teach kids to, who can look, talk, and feel great, and who can locally discuss and share online info offline as nice, helpful, respectful people making better people and places to live. So check out manfulwars.com on that. And on that note, this video is called Locally Fight for Polite or Don't Talk Offline and Just Type to Strangers in the Borderless Matrix. And basically, I'm advocating that people fight to make sure people where they live are polite, because otherwise you're kind of stuck in the borderless matrix where you live, people have trouble connecting with each other offline, and then online you're also kind of borderless, looking for people around the world to agree while getting further and further away from people where you live. And this is something that we should try and deal with. And it was inspired in a couple of ways, this video, by a couple of pieces of online content. One is the new Lauren Southern film, Borderless. Borderless, and I strongly recommend you check it out. I've got a copy on my Manful Wars Media YouTube channel and my Manful Wars BitChute channel, which I got from the Julie Mora channel because she talked about it being censored. There's been talks about how it's being censored by YouTube and so on, and Ms. Lauren Southern wants the whole world to see this film, which many of her patrons helped her make. And in the film Borderless, I won't go through the whole thing for you, but it's an amazing piece of work at about an hour and a half. It's the type of film where after you watch it, you're going to want to enjoy some thoughtful silence. It's not like, oh, that was cool, click on the next video. That was cool, click on the next video. It's one of those where you're like, wow, that was an amazing documentary. It's the world I live in, and she explains the idea of open borders policies being pushed kind of worldwide and how that affects everybody. It affects people in the West, it affects people coming to the West, it affects the whole world. And, without giving too much away, Ms. Lauren Southern and her team really humanize both locals and how it affects them, and people that are trying to immigrate, migrants that are struggling to look for a better opportunity, that are having some issues where they live, and it shows how they're both screwed. People, where they live are screwed as all these migrants come over, and migrants are also screwed because the dreams they had of what life in the West would be like, based on watching TV or movies or being lied to, often don't come true for them when they pay human traffickers to ferry them over. And the only people that are sort of profiting off this are human traffickers. And those human traffickers are getting, say, 1,000 euros a day, $1,000 a day, per human, per migrant that they're bringing over. So that's millions of dollars a week if it's, say, 500 or 1,000 a day. And so it's a big business for them. And then above them, globalist, super rich people that want to destroy borders and countries and weaken people to centrally control everything with the UN and other international bodies they control. They're the ones who allow this to happen and benefit. So they're the ones who buy off your politicians, buy off your media, push these ideas in your various media and education systems to kind of get everybody to accept them. So at the very top, super rich people want to control the world, allow human traffickers to profit off this, and they screw over locals and migrants as part of this process. So as part of the Borderless Matrix, it's important to check out the Lauren Southern film Borderless and the amazing work that she and her team did, actually not just sort of, looking at other videos or news reports, but going on the ground to talk to migrants and human traffickers and locals and politicians and media and different parties involved in this process to really give you an idea of who they are, and NGOs and others facilitating this. And you realize that everybody is getting screwed and everybody's getting screwed up by this process, and you got to wonder who benefits from that. So it's inspired in part by that, and also by comedian Chris D'Elia, and something I saw on his YouTube channel, where Chris D'Elia on his YouTube channel makes fun of some pop culture ideas, and he was doing a video on how 1 million fans signed a petition to get the Game of Thrones HBO TV show creators to try and remake Game of Thrones, right? They basically say the last season sucked. We've been watching this for 8 years, and we want you to remake the whole last season. And, he was talking about how crazy that is, how silly that is, even though he's a fan and he's working his way through some of the seasons of the show. And he was talking about, how silly it was for people to be leaving comments on these pages and so on, and in general some of the internet commentary he makes fun of and so on. So for example, there's a bunch of comments there about the Game of Thrones petition, and somebody just types please, Please. That's it. And he's just saying, guys, this is crazy. You logged in and you thought, oh, this is what I'll do. I need to log in to just type please to a bunch of strangers as part of a bunch of comments on this channel or petition or whatever, as my random contribution to what a bunch of strangers are talking about with respect to this thing I care about. And this is what I mean by saying locally fight for polite, or don't talk offline and just get stuck typing to strangers in the borderless matrix. Because if you look, so we say, what am I supposed to do? This and that, blah, blah, blah. This is the way we live. This is social media. The way the globalist super rich people work in terms of social engineering and brainwashing us is they play the long game. They play the long game. They say, well, how will this affect people over time, over a period of years? So, for example, they're not just like, oh, you do this and this will happen to you. They're like, if we introduce these ideas to certain population groups over the next 5, 10, 20 years, this is how those populations will be affected. So that's their methodology, and this is part of how they're messing with us. So that's some of the inspiration. And when it comes to globalism and their desire for no borders, as part of the idea of fighting for polite and fighting for sort of all the things that we've ever cared about as human beings on planet Earth for the last several thousand years, the globalists are trying to destroy all borders. They're trying to destroy personal space borders by squishing people closer and closer together in terms of living spaces, by making sure people aren't as polite, not like ladies and gentlemen, where guys are straight up and cool, polite, and stay busy or friendly, then out of the way and on their way. And they know with other guys, give each other a little room, don't make each other uncomfortable, don't start no ish, won't be no ish, and so on. And with girls and women and children, you give them even more room. And you say, oh, big strong man, don't want to scare you, want to make sure you're not scared. And so I'll give you even more room. And in exchange, you'll get a woman or a child with confident masculine strength, meeting and confirming the same, and giving a safe space for confident feminine and child vulnerability, you'll get even more friendly women and children as part of that process. But by making us all gender equal, gender neutral, the same, all the gender confusion, they're even destroying the borders between personal space, where you get on a bus, you get on a subway, you walk around a city, and people aren't acting like nice ladies and gentlemen, consistently showing and getting respect based on being nice ladies and gents, where most people straight are great at it, and then others, LGBT, whatever, can also fit into that as nice people, or they're jerks who shouldn't be taken seriously, because those are how people are nice to each other. And all of this is being attacked by globalism, which is also a form of communism. And as a reflection of that, you can hear stories coming out of communist China, where because communist China is the globalist new role model for the world, they're doing the same thing there, where they say, oh, no more men and women, don't take gender seriously, don't take culture, tradition, being masculine and feminine seriously. And so in big cities in China, as has been told to me by people that have lived there and other sort of evidence, and this is happening more and more in the West too. It's not about what the Chinese people want, it's about the system being forced on them. But you'll have people literally walking around, heads down, bumping into each other, and not saying or doing it. There's no excuse me or sorry. It's just, yep, shuffling around, bumping into each other, shuffling around, bumping into each other, shuffling around, bumping into each other. And as it gets harder and harder to communicate and respect each other and look, talk, and feel good with each other, sometimes that's how they passively aggressively get attention. Oops, sorry, bumped into you. I don't respect people. They don't respect me. I don't have any self-respect. We have trouble looking at, talking to, and listening to each other. So I literally have to just bother people to get attention. And all of that is part of this globalist process. So this is what we've got to fight against as part of this, because they are trying to destroy borders on everything. And if you ultimately look at some of the issues, you can look at books like 1984, where they were worried they were going to burn all the books, and then look at books like Brave New World as a warning to people about the type of governments and policies you don't want, where they say we don't have to burn books. Nobody feels like reading them. Right? We've so lobotomized the population with sex and drugs and distractions that they don't even care. Like, they don't think it's their place to be involved in what's going on where they live. And so there's a combination of 1984 style policies, where it's more fascistic, authoritarian police state crack down on people, and Brave New World policies, where the brainwashing destroys people's will, and they're sort of like sheep that don't think they should do anything except for be sheep as part of this process. So that's what we're guarding against. And as part of the personal space borders being destroyed as part of this process, in Brave New World, it was rude to not have sex with somebody. Now, in the normal world, you're only supposed to have sex with somebody you're in a relationship with, or who you've gotten to know reasonably well and have come to some sort of agreement with, or in the more extreme cases, prostitution or whatnot. But in Brave New World, they turned everybody into sort of corporate clones and sort of commie zombies who were all the same. And as part of that process, they had virtual sex with each other because they were bored, they couldn't respect each other and communicate well, and so that's what they did. And in the modern sort of rude line, bitchy, sketchy, ugly, pretend old wife or girlfriend busting your balls, just worked up and bothering you and making you uncomfortable and making you put up with and act like them and making more, sort of people turning into zombies, it's sort of the same thing, where if you're near somebody and they're like, hey, messed up. No, I'm messed up. No, I'm messed up. Put up with me. Yeah, no, not going to look at, talk to each other much. It's going to be sketchy near you. Pretend bitchy, sketchy, ugly old lady, your wife or girlfriend, busting your balls, making you uncomfortable. Just look at me. No, I can't show and get respect, so we can't look at, talk to people. I don't have self-respect. Nobody listens to me because of how I act, so I'm not nice enough to talk, and people aren't nice enough to talk with me. So let me just kind of be near you and kind of act sketchy. And this is especially more true in liberal areas where there's more of this type of brainwashing, whereas in conservative areas, they're typically more resistant to it, although it's coming to hit them too. And other people have talked about this, where celebrities or semi-celebrities have talked about living in California and how that differs from sort of living in the American Midwest, California being more liberal and the American Midwest often being more conservative, where they say in more conservative areas, you'll have people that kind of recognize you as a celebrity, and they'll just interact with you like normal human beings do in a respectful way. Or they'll be like, oh, I'm a huge fan. Hey, I really like your show. Oh, thank you. And then you can just give them a thank you very much. Yeah, have a good day. You too, right? You can be cool with each other, right? Or you can politely acknowledge each other, right? And so it's kind of over and done with. And so if you're a celebrity there, it's kind of easier to kind of hang out and be like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like people, I might be famous, and it might be a little weird to be getting more attention than normal. But when people act normal, then they can normally show and get respect with that attention, and they can feel better and you can feel better. It's not so bad. And some of the same celebrities have talked about walking around in California, in Los Angeles, and saying there are people that kind of walk or hang out near them that just aren't sure what to do. They're just not sure. They're not sure how to show and get respect, how to say hello. They're sort of zombies that are being drained of their mojo, and zombies want brains, zombies want balls, but zombies just make more zombies. And these celebrities will say they just kind of hang out near you and act weird, right? They just kind of hang out near you. You're walking down the street in Los Angeles as a celebrity or semi-celebrity, somebody recognizes you, but instead of going, oh, hey, are you the guy from so-and-so? Yeah, I am. Oh, hey, I love your show. Oh, thanks, man. Hey, have a good day, you too. Or can I get a selfie or whatever? And just a nice, normal, get this done interaction, you'll just have people being turned into zombies, just kind of walking near you and acting sheepish and sketchy, right? Just kind of like, oh, yep, no, just kind of creepy near you, just following you around, just acting kind of creepy and sheepish near you, you know. And so they've complained about that, where they say, yeah, people just have no manners in liberal Los Angeles and other liberal areas as part of this brainwashing. So, and in Brave New World, it's very much the same, except in the book, it's taken to extremes, where if you're on a subway beside somebody and you can't respect each other, you can't communicate well, so you're like, let's just have sex. And you'd connect through some sort of virtual tube. You'd have some sort of tube attached to your body. And while you're sitting on the subway, you'd connect your tube to their tube. And, in your virtual reality kind of way, you would just have sex with each other because you were bored and you couldn't do anything else. That's very similar to what's going on today, with people just kind of acting rude and sketchy with each other. And instead of it being rude, to make people uncomfortable and say, hey, yeah, no, just put up with me. Yeah, rude, sketchy, touching my face to talk instead of talking. Touch my face to talk. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, look at my body. Yeah, force you to look at me, blah, blah, blah. Instead of it being rude to do that and make people uncomfortable, it's rude to not allow someone to make you uncomfortable. And then when you allow them to do that, then you have to do that back because there's not much else you can do with them. And then you both turn into zombies. And then when you don't communicate well with each other, you run around bothering strangers trying to make more zombies out of nice people. So if you see a nice person there that isn't a zombie, that's nice, that's polite, that has self-respect, that's smart, that's good looking, and so on, you attack them because they're worth bothering when you're already messing with each other, and you try and bother them until they bother you back and you make more zombies. So it's all being flipped, and that's what I mean about the borders when it comes to personal space, the family unit, your homes. When it comes to that, it's like, well, there's no borders in your homes. How do you know? Well, you can put Google Mini, your camera's got a phone. There's been lots of reports about, big government surveillance kind of tracking everything you say and do and so on. So there are no borders to anything anymore when it comes to personal space, the family unit, your home, your city, your country, and so on. All of that is being destroyed as part of this process. And that's why it's good to fight for polite locally where you live, to make sure people can talk offline, respect each other enough to talk offline, and make more people who can, as opposed to getting beaten down by the sketchy zombification going on out there. And that's because they want to make everyone the same, so there's no way to connect well and defend their takeover, right? If we're all the same, if I'm not, hey, big strong guys, we're all cool, whatever, and then attractive, graceful women, and then we can put each other in a good mood, and cute kids can kind of pick up on that and learn how to do this, then we're good. And this also includes the masculine and feminine double standard. Now, what they're doing is they're taking that double standard and they're putting women in charge of sort of bullying everyone into sort of putting up with and acting like them. And then when men do that, men sort of have a take charge, aggressive attitude, as men act like rude, ugly girls, sexually harass each other. When they wouldn't look at each other enough, they jealously harass women. And any time a female gets attention, they'd act like a rude, ugly version to try and steal that attention. And then they make everyone rude, ugly girls, and that's how people are being turned into zombies. And this is why the male-female double standard is so important. Because nice women deserve nice men. Nice women deserve nice men. That is the double standard. And nice men deserve nice women. And to be nice men and women, you have to be different. If you're all the same, then you're just rude, ugly ones. Right? And nobody wants to pay attention or listen to or respect a rude, ugly one that's bothering you for no reason, that still wants attention, but can't show and get any respect, and can't get attention in a way that's empowering, that can only get attention in a way that's distracting and disempowering. So not graceful and feminine and attractive, but rude and ugly and unattractive, and that's why people get worked up and force you to put up with them. Right? That's ugly. That's ugly, right? That's why they walk extra fast and just try and get away with it. And that becomes, when it becomes hard to do anything else, that becomes an obsession. where you're like, well, normally I can't respect people, they can't respect me, so we can't really take each other that seriously. So I'm just obsessed with sort of barely making people put up with me for as many seconds as I can. And that's the attack on us that we need to beat. And the opposite of that is the male-female double standard, where men don't lie, they can look each other in the eye, they don't get worked up and make each other nervous. It's what are you looking at, not why aren't you looking at me. It's firm handshake, and that sort of thing, right? So guys recognize they're being guys, they're cool, they feel strong with each other, strong and useful. And then women feel safe and special, right? They can still use eye contact, but they can also use shy contact, where instead of looking you directly in the eye, they can kind of look away and you can kind of notice, if not actually look, but notice them being attractive. And that, because they relax more and you relax more, is something that's consensual. It's something that's fulfilling and empowering. And all of that is being attacked when, guys act like rude, ugly girls and bully everyone else into putting up with and acting like rude, ugly girls, right? And that's the brainwashing. That's how they destroy anybody that can act like a human being and turn everyone into a rude, sketchy zombie. Now, the double standard opposite of that is guys are like, blah, blah, guys, oh, girls, okay, take the edge off that. Be nice to the nice girl. The nice girl appreciates you taking the edge off that and is a nice girl with you, right? So, for example, if a bunch of Navy SEALs were at a bar, and these Navy SEALs were like, oh, I just got back from Afghanistan. Oh, yeah, I shot this guy at 1,000 yards. Oh, blew his head open. Oh, it's so crazy. Oh, man, you can kill a guy with a corkscrew. Oh, I can kill a guy with a penknife. Oh, I can kill a guy with a ballpoint pen, right? And then the cute waitress at the bar comes over, right? Now, they're going to take a break from being men who are talking about how they kill people or ways to kill people with the cute waitress. And the cute waitress will be a cute, attractive waitress, recognizing that they took a break from their, grumbly man talk to be nicer to her, so she should be nicer to them, right? That's the double standard that men and women have. And that's what's being attacked and why everyone is the same and no one's happy about it. And so the guys will stop. They'll be nice to her. It's like, oh, how you guys doing? Oh, we're doing much better right now. We're doing much better now you got here, honey. Oh, you guys are so cute. What can I get you? Oh, we'll take a couple of pounds of wings and a couple of pitchers of beer. And oh, okay, I'll be right back. Hee. And then the guys are like, yeah, hot girl, likes us. Oh, it's great. And she's like, hee, those cool guys like me, hee. And she goes and she, gets the order. And the guys go back to talking about, kill this guy this way, this way. That's the double standard. And that's on large and small levels. That even comes when it comes to how you act and how you carry yourself. And where guys, don't bother each other, don't scare no girls. Girls see guys don't bother each other, respect each other, they're worth respecting, and don't scare no girls. That extra step for them, even more worth respecting and worth being friendly with. So that's being attacked right now to make sure we can't connect well and defend where we live against the great globalist takeover. Now, when it comes to nationalists out there and patriots that are concerned about these issues, you can't just agree to bitch to people who agree to bitch. Now, I've got great respect for the online InfoWar. I've benefited tremendously from it. I've learned a lot, and I've found many, many people to respect. But when it comes to offline and online, what you have is the great globalist bitch out, where people are complaining often instead of explaining, or there's ways of talking about, what a mess, this world is, or how messed up you are, or whatever. And that goes when it comes to online information and when it comes to fans commenting on that online information, right? In Canada, oh, Trudeau's such a scumbag. Oh, yeah, I know, type Trudeau's such a scumbag, blah, 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 right? So it's just sort of bitching. And as part of the borderless matrix, it's bitching to strangers as opposed to connecting well and discussing solutions to this sort of thing with people where you live. And again, nothing against a lot of the great online commentators doing stuff like this and much better. But this is part of the great globalist bitch out, because over time, people can get sick of that. You can get sick of making these videos where you're not really connecting that well with people. You're just sort of getting some comments, and it could be, validating to get some comments or get some thumbs or whatever. But ultimately, it's replacing locally, being polite enough to talk offline, and connecting well with people on the major issues of the day, and being great people to, look, talk, and feel great with about fun and serious stuff. It just depends on what's up and what's going on where you live. So, over time, it's having a positive effect, obviously, but it's also having negative effects, obviously. As you can see, if you compare online, the number of people that seem to be concerned about issues, and offline, the number of people that can talk about their concerns or that are taking action when it comes to these concerns. And, when it comes to Canada, you can just sort of multiply these numbers by 10 for America, 50, prominent patriots online in Canada, like Ezra Levant and his Rebel Media team, like Faith Goldy and her millions of fans, like Rance Derrick and so on, and many, many others. And 50 major prominent patriots in Canada, and maybe 500,000 or 5 million fans in Canada, just typing to each other online, just people they agree with. That's probably not going to be enough to save a country of 35 million people. It's probably not going to be enough to get people able to reach out to people where they live with something that they like. Everybody likes Be Nice. It's fine. Everybody likes Be Nice. People, left, right, whatever. You don't want life to be harder. You want life to be easier. So everybody likes Be Nice. And then that will make more confident people who can say or hear or allow to be said, get bad guys, online and especially offline. So that's why fighting for polite is a very important part of this, because you can reach everybody. And I know myself, I was recently at a Canadian nationalist Pegida rally on May 4th, 2019, and I had two wonderful conversations. Even though I was on the Canadian nationalist side, the more conservative side, I had two wonderful conversations with two cute little friendly white Antifa girls dressed in black, on the liberal, on the Antifa side, with a bunch of people dressed in black that, are often, committed to acts of violence and punch a Nazi and, hate anything conservative and want open borders. I've got one on video, which is up on my BitChute YouTube channels. And I've got another one, which a buddy of mine was beside me to see, as well as a bunch of other cops and other people around. But I had two great conversations with these young Antifa girls. And part of it was because I had my Man for Wars sign, on me, which I used to used to be able to ignore people acting rude and sketchy, and they'd get embarrassed and stop, or they just get embarrassed and run away. But now they just keep trying to force you to put up with them until you have to act like them, and they turn you into a zombie too. And so I'll hold up something like a newspaper. I'll hold up my manforwars.com sign. It's got a man holding up a woman on one. It's got a little Fight Club guy and whatever. And that was part of the reason I think they could see me and they could go, you know what? You're probably not bad at being a guy. So if I can be good at being a girl and I can talk to you, even if we disagree, I can at least know that we can respect each other and I can get to the bottom of it. And so one of the Antifa girls was like, why do you like this? And I was like, well, blah, 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 that. And we went back and forth for, 10 minutes on video across a fence where she and her Antifa people were there and me and some of my Canadian nationalist peeps were over here. We were just back and forth chatting away. And in another situation, the whole rally was moving kind of up the street after the main kind of confrontational area. And me and my buddy who'd gone to get a coffee and come back, we were on the wrong side of it. We were behind the Antifa people that were kind of, clustered together against the Canadian nationalist people. We were about 20 feet back. But we were chilling. And again, we were cool guys. We weren't, into just acting stupid back and forth with people, yelling at each other or acting sketchy or anything else. And so we were just kind of chilling. And a cute little Antifa girl, mask on, sunglasses, hoodie, black jeans, and so on, just came right up to my left. And she was being friendly in a cute young white girl, feminine vulnerability way with a confident guy. And she just said to me, "You're on the wrong side." And I was like, I'm sorry about that. I honestly just want to, get along with people and talk about ways to make better people and places to live. So I don't agree with everything they say, probably don't agree with everything you folks say, but I'm happy to respect each other and discuss things, right? So this is something where you would ideally say, they're the Antifa affiliated people or Antifa there, and you're the conservative Canadian nationalist people, against open borders. They call you racist, sexist, Nazi phobic, whatever. And these two chicks should have hated me But because I was flexing like a polite Canadian gentleman, they could flex like polite Canadian girls and not agreeing with everything, just acting nice enough to talk. That's the point. Acting nice enough to talk. If you don't act like ladies and gentlemen, you don't act nice enough to talk. And that is part of the plan to make sure we don't, and we turn into anti-free speech zombies making more instead. So when it comes to Canada, 50 prominent patriots and 500,000 or maybe 5 million fans typing to each other online, and increasingly getting censored and herded into digital ghettos, or getting to our own platforms, Gab instead of Twitter, BitChute instead of YouTube, sort of connecting more and more with each other, but getting further and further away from everybody else, including people we disagree with, and the big kind of nebulous middle, kind of being influenced by the globalists and people we disagree with. That's probably not going to work in the long term. And in America, say 500 prominent American patriots and say 50 million, say 5 million or 50 million fans online, right? Depending on how you slice it. Same thing, herded into digital ghettos, increasing censorship, increasing self-censorship. That may not be enough to win your freedom. Now, you hope the people in charge, can do more about this, but at the end of the day, you can do more about it where you live as well. So I want to make that point for nationalists and patriots out there as well. And when it comes to the globalists and the globalist leftists, basically the hardcore leftists are basically commie zombies. They're the exact same people that communists created. And by that I mean, they're not people that can talk about what they believe. They're people that are just sort of herded into believing it, that are herded into groupthink, and that will get upset and attack you if you ask them what they believe, or you ask them or you question what they believe. And they are turning normal people into that as well. And I'll give you an example. This is over 10 years ago. I'm a reporter for CKLN Radio. I got my own show there and so on. And I go to a anti-poverty protest in Toronto. And there's a bunch of people there saying, anti-poverty protest, we need, more government to do more about poor people, anti-poverty protest. And so I try to talk to a couple of the protesters. And I'm like, hey, why are you out here protesting? Can you, give me your perspective on this? And they were like, you've got to talk to our spokesperson. I was like, I'm happy to talk to your spokesperson, but you're also out here spending a few hours of your day on a nice Saturday or whatever to make this point. You're out in the public trying to get the public's attention. So why can't you explain, what you believe in and what your position is? And they were like, nope, looking away, shying away. Nope, just got to talk to our spokesperson, right? And this happens over and over and over again at a variety of left-wing protests. And you can also see this online in YouTube videos. Infowars.com and the Infowars family of reporters often does this, where they say, I just want to get a smart opinion. Occasionally you will, but a lot of the times you won't. You'll just have people acting snarky and bitchy and angry, and they can't really explain why they're saying, Trump is really bad, Trump is orange man bad, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, fine. So can you explain, why you think he's bad? Explain me what he's done that's really bad. Then they just scream, racist, sexist, phobic, Nazi, and they get upset at you for questioning them about what they believe. Now, when it comes to, pro-choice rallies versus pro-life rallies, or pro-abortion rallies, right? You'll have people that say, well, so when should we, be allowed to abort until, right? Now, a recent interview on Infowars, a woman said up to 3 years old. And then the Infowars reporter girl, nice woman named Caitlin, was like, wow, can you explain that? And the woman who said that was just like, I need a moment. I got to go, right? She wanted to move away. So you get left-wing protesters, right? Leftists that are out there screaming in the street, everybody pay attention to me. We have the right side of this argument. We have the right policies to advocate for. Everybody listen to me. That's why we're out here screaming at you. And then you go up and talk to them, and they can't explain it. They can't explain why. They can't explain their position very well, right? And you would think, and this is sort of infecting normal culture as well. Most people in the middle, or most people who aren't political, are being brainwashed to act like this as well, to sort of be uncomfortable about their political opinions and other cultural opinions. Everything's political. So, you can say cultural opinions as well. And they're saying, no, 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 I don't want to talk about this. I believe this strongly because I'm supposed to, but I don't want to talk about this because I haven't thought it out. It's like, well, how can you believe something strongly you haven't thought out? And that's part of the globalist communist brainwashing that is being forced on us by our globalist overlords, and something that polite patriots worldwide, locally, where you live, have to try and beat. And you might think, well, so what? What's the big deal? They're on the right side of this. It's like, no, no, no. If you're on the right side of this, or if you've thought about this to the point where you feel comfortable yelling it at everybody, right? Then people should be able to ask you about it comfortably, and you should be able to have a conversation about it. And whether people agree or disagree, if everybody agreed, there'd be no reason to be out in the street yelling it. And if people either disagree or don't know, you should be able to explain your position on these issues. And many people on the conservative, nationalist, libertarian, patriot side of things can do that. Where if you come up to somebody and they're like, why are you, on the street doing this? They'll say, oh, well, we're explaining about this, and open borders leads to lower wages, destabilized cultures, and is bad for locals. It's bad for the migrants coming over. It's bad for our system. We got to take care of our own. You can go into all sorts of explanations for why you're against open borders. But if you ask the pro-open borders people, they can't. They just call you racist, Nazi. You hate people from around the world. I'm used to yelling and making sure everybody listens to me and everybody has to do what I say, as opposed to calmly convincing somebody of my opinion. And they'll get uncomfortable, they'll get upset, and they'll attack you when you ask them what they think. And the reason is they don't think. They just feel how they're supposed to kind of go along with the herd mentality that they're being brainwashed into. Now, this is the globalist radical left corrupting normal liberals and normal conservatives. Because normally, conservatives try and preserve what works in the classic sense. Nope, this is the way we've done things. This is what's made us happy. This is how we have a good culture where we live, right? And that's cool. You need to do some of that. But classic liberals also push for changes. Well, maybe we can try these things. Maybe we can help these people more. Maybe we should evolve this, and so on. So if people can respect each other, like polite ladies and gents, then that's a healthy push-pull to push your system forward. You don't want to have a pure conservative opinion where we're all Luddites and we're just like, well, beware the iron horse. We should all ride horses. Automobiles suck. We should never do anything else. Or Luddites, for example, right? Who are anti-technology. No, no, nothing. No, can't do anything, right? Or even some tiny villages in the South Pacific that reject anything foreign and that are living like they've lived for thousands of years. Now, that is 100% hardcore, super conservative way of doing things, where you don't change a damn thing. That's it. We're here. We're eating. We're living. We're having babies and making more of us. Done. Finished. Don't make any changes to what we're doing. Don't threaten it. Everything's fine. Right? That's a super ultra conservative way of doing things. And on the ultra liberal side, it's change everything. Everything sucks. Everybody before was racist, sexist, and phobic, and they didn't understand how important trans people were. So destroy everybody in your history books. Everybody. Everybody that came before the year 2015. Get rid of them all. What about the Beatles? The Beatles didn't sing about trans people. They didn't. Did the Beatles do any songs about trans people? No. So they suck. So get rid of them. The trans people are not happy because the Beatles didn't make any songs about trans people back in the 1960s. So you get rid of all your, okay, fine, get rid of all my Beatles, get rid of everything that came before this morning, right? That's constant super change, right? So You don't want ultra-conservative, don't change anything. You don't want ultra-liberal, change everything. Everything before this sentence sucked. Now we need to change everything because otherwise you get nothing happening, or you get communism happening, where you replace everything because everything before sucked. Don't say mother, don't say father, these people are offended. Don't say it's good to have a family and be married and have kids because single people are offended. Don't say this because don't say straight because gay people are offended. Don't say gay because trans people are offended. Don't say trans because disabled trans people are offended. Don't say disabled trans because colored trans, disabled trans people are offended. Don't say it's such a beautiful day, it's so nice to see the sun because blind people are offended. You know, don't say anything. Don't do anything, right? That's the constant kind of radical left flux that they'll put you in if you kind of go along with that, where you can't appreciate anything. Now, there's no more cultural appreciation. It's all cultural appropriation. That's how they try and destroy our ability to communicate, by making it impossible to as part of this process. And yet, as I explained with the two friendly Antifa girls, when, you know, it's clear that we are going to act like nice, polite ladies and gents, and we're going to show and get respect, it's actually safe to be nice. Not just rude, sketchy, yeah, put up with me, yeah, force you to see me touch my head or my hair or act sketchy or look at my body in a sexually harassing way. Oh, yeah, put up with me, put up with me. When you're not doing any of that, and it's clear you're going to be nice to each other, it's safe to act nice, then it's a lot easier to talk about these things and laugh about these things and joke about these things and inform and empower each other. If you can't, then you turn to commie zombies that are easy to control, and they just want to make more commie zombies so you don't feel so bad about being a commie zombie, right? And keep in mind, the communists, in terms of the communists that we know from history, communist Russia, communist China, communist Cambodia, and others, they killed 100 million people in the 20th century this way. 100 million people, right? Estimates are around 50 million in Russia, 50 million in China, millions in Cambodia, right? And who did they attack? They attacked all the nice people, all the smart people, anybody wearing glasses. Oh, you can read. Oh, you can read. So you're part of old establishment power structure. You probably read their books. Kill them, right? Anybody that was good at being a man or a woman, kill them. Anybody that was nice, attractive, smart, you know, helpful, anybody successful. Oh, you have a business. Yeah, my business employs 50 Russians. Kill them. Businessmen, evil capitalists, kill them, kill them, kill them, right? This is how they did it. They attacked gender so people couldn't act nice enough to talk, right? So you had all the communist zombies in communist Russia, communist China, that turned into zombies that went out and attacked everybody else, where you couldn't discuss and debate with them. They just got mad, and they killed anybody that wasn't a commie zombie. You know, you don't understand how bad it is, how the proletariat must rise up. It's like, no, actually, I think it's pretty good to be in Russia. I'm a nice Russian man. I'm good at being a nice Russian man with nice Russian women. We get along. We have great country. We just have to keep making it better. No, you don't understand. It sucks. Communist revolution must... Why aren't you all messed up? Why aren't you all messed up? Why aren't you feeling bad? Why don't you know how bad you have to feel? Kill them! And so they killed a bunch of Russians. Or in China. You don't understand how bad it is. We need Mao revolution. We need communist revolution. There are people starving. There are people hungry. There are people doing bad. And there are evil people, the rich people, successful, smart people, people who can read, holding everybody down. And you're like, oh, actually, no, I Chinese man too, and I can read, and I can tell you that it's actually good to be Chinese, and we have good Chinese culture, and we should make sure that we are nice to each other so we can talk about good ideas. No, can't do that. No, you can't do that. No, kill them. How dare they not understand how important it is to be commie zombie and kill anybody who's not messed up and think being commie zombie. That's how they killed 100 million people in the 20th century. And they're doing the same thing today. They're attacking gender to make sure people can't act nice enough to talk, right? And then when they're messed up, they make sure people competitively bitch. Competitively bitch. They make sure you bitch out. You're always bitching. You're always acting like a bitch, or a bitch's bitch who makes more bitches, who makes more bitches, who make more bitches, who make more bitches. That's what they do, right? So if you are part of an Antifa mob of people, right, and you're like, hey, you know what? I don't think they're that bad. I mean, they're also Canadians or they're also Americans or whoever over there. I'd like to talk to them. No, don't you talk to them. They're Nazis, racist, sexist, phobic. And like, yeah, hit them with a milkshake. No, hit them with a brick. No, I shoot them in the head. No, I shoot their whole family. They compete a bit to be more and more messed up. Like it's a competition. It's a bitching competition. And they attack gender by saying no more men and women, family's not important, being good at being a man or woman is not important. And they do that to make sure commie zombies can't talk to each other and then attack everybody else that can because they're not a commie zombie, right? So the same thing is happening today, where people out there, commie zombies, worked up, walking extra fast, forcing you to put up with them, just kind of bother you for attention. Oh, excuse me. Oh, passive-aggressive cry bullies. They get embarrassed, lie, argue, bump into you. Hey, watch it. What do you mean, watch it? Oh, you think I did something? I didn't do anything. Oh, you're a jerk. You can't get attention being nice to people who are nice to you. So that's the only way you can get attention. And that's the commie zombification of people. And if they couldn't switch people, then they'd snitch. And they'd have people censored or arrested or killed. And the same thing is happening today, online and offline, where online, obviously you know about the Twitter mobs attacking people and YouTube censorship and Facebook censorship and so on and more. And then offline, I've been at parties or whatever, and it was years ago, and I was talking about, like say they didn't find WMDs in Iraq, right? And I was just talking with a friend of mine. It wasn't something that we're going to go on and on about for hours, but it was just at a party, a bunch of different subjects come up. And I happen to be somebody that knows a bit about politics, so we can talk about that. And then we can talk about the Simpsons or the Raptors or whatever, right? And people be like, oh, don't let them say anything, boo, right? Like they get upset if you have any sort of opinions that are contradictory to the mainstream. And instead of being, somebody that'll discuss them with you, they'll get too upset to discuss their political opinions with you. They'll just try and make sure that you don't share yours. That's the commie zombification of people. Where if you're like, to liberals out there, hey, I'd like to discuss, how you feel. Like, what do you think? No, I'm not supposed to talk about how I feel. I'm just supposed to believe this, right? And you're not supposed to talk about how you feel. You're not supposed to think. You're not supposed to talk. You're just supposed to feel this way. And if you don't, then commie zombies will shut you up and shut you down, right? So it's the same thing happening today, the commie zombification of people in general. And this is to make sure, again, people don't connect well, don't respect each other, and can't, communicate well where they live and save it. And if you compare, because you might be like thinking, well, I don't like talking to people I disagree with. I don't want to get into an argument. I don't want to be, confrontational. It's like, well, that's exactly why you've got to be nice, polite ladies and gents teaching kids to be, who can show and get respect. Because then it doesn't come to that, right? Unless somebody snaps, people are cool until they have to snap. And you typically don't have to snap if you're trying to understand each other. Not agree, not force people to agree, or not force people to shut up and agree and act the same, but people who can understand each other. And you can take people like Christians on the street. You might see a group of Christians on the street that are, standing there, that are preaching on the street, that are giving away Bibles or whatever. If you go up to them, they're used to dealing with people that don't agree. That's why they're on the street. They're like, we know you all don't agree with me. We're not commie zombies. We're Christians who are saying, believing in Jesus is how you get to heaven, and it's the path to salvation on earth and in the afterlife. And we think you may, have either not heard much about this or been misinformed, or you'd like to talk to somebody, who knows about this and can help you consider it as your path to salvation for yourself or your family and friends, right? And so you can go up to them and say, hey, Christian, I'm not a Christian. Christian's like, that's why I'm here. I'm here to talk to people who aren't Christians. And like, okay, Christian, what's up? The Christian's like, well, I believe in this and that and Jesus and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, well, okay, Christian, and you can go back and forth with them, right? And I'm not saying all of them are perfect and all of them are this and that. I'm just saying in the broader understanding of things, from the more conservative, nationalist, patriot, religious, side of things. You're not used to being an anti-free speech commie zombie. You're more used to being somebody that has got to think about your opinions and then be able to explain them and be able to defend them and be able to pass them on to people that are interested when you respect each other and it's worth having that conversation. So if you compare the way Christians and others on the more conservative side act to the way leftists act, not classic liberals, not classic conservatives, but the radical leftists that are making everybody, by extension, radical leftists because of the globalist, communist brainwashing that's being pushed through the media and education and entertainment and so on. That's turning all of us into that. If you look, you can say, well, these are people who know you don't agree, and they can be nice to you and talk to you about how they feel, and you should be nice to them and talk to them about how you feel, as opposed to just feeling threatened because someone doesn't agree with you and attacking them one way or another, either by acting like a rude, lying, bitchy, sketchy zombie, put up with me, make us all quiet and uncomfortable, pretend bitchy, sketchy, ugly old lady, wife, girlfriend, ha ha, and then now we're all quiet, uncomfortable. And what else are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to look at me, talk to me? We don't respect each other. You're just going to do the same thing, and I'll turn you into a zombie too. And then once you turn into a zombie that can't respect people and communicate well with them, then your job will be to go out there and attack other people and turn them into zombies. So if you compare that, the radical left way of looking at things, to the more conservative way, then you can understand why it's important to sort of locally promote being polite, fight for polite, or you won't be able to talk offline and you'll just, you'll just type to strangers in the borderless matrix where you're like looking, it's like nobody where I live I can express these things comfortably with. So I spend, a few hours a day kind of typing to people who probably agree online, as opposed to being able to connect with people where we're not all the same. We're all individuals. We don't all agree on everything, or life would be very boring and stupid, right? But that's what they're trying to create. And you can connect with each other normally and help evolve each other's opinions in a healthy way. And that's why it's so important. And so, finally, as I said, this is about how do you appeal to not just people you agree with, but to people who you disagree with. At manforwars.com, I've done extensive video on this, and I've shown, what's accepted. It's been getting worse for the last 5-10 years, really 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, but especially the last 5 or so, it's just accelerated, right? It's going crazy. The attacks on gender, the attacks on this, and the inability of people to discuss anything, let alone serious stuff. And the idea of treating people who you like the same way as you treat people you dislike, because it's all the same lying, bitchy, sketchy, commie, zombie shit, right? Where I've done experiments where I'm like, oh, it's a nice day. It'd be nice to see nice, polite Canadians. And I filmed lying, bitchy, sketchy, commie, pretend bitchy, sketchy, ugly old lady, wife, girlfriend, bust your balls. Nobody can be nice near me. Nobody can be happy. Nobody can show or get respect. Nobody can look, talk, or feel good. No, but you're worth turning into a zombie. Other people worked up bothering people. I worked up bothering, but zombies back and forth with zombies, not as cool as you are really worth making into a zombie. And they try and force you to put up with them, right? So that's what they do to anybody who's nice, who's smart, who's helpful, who's attractive, right? That's what they do, is they attack you and turn you into a zombie. But if that's all they can do, it's all they can do, right? And if they don't like what you're saying, man, this sucks, we should stop acting like zombies, it's the same thing. They attack you the same way, right? That's the mass commie zombification of people. So to appeal to people out there, I recommend, one thing I'd like to, recommend, for example, in Canada, there's an election coming up in 2019 for Prime Minister. We've had a miserable, horrible, globalist, sellout, weak, lying, bitchy man, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau for the last 4 or 5 years. And he's horrible. He makes everybody too uncomfortable to be in their own skin, as opposed to somebody who's actually saying, like President Trump in America, don't worry about it. This is a great country. We've got great people. Let's focus on jobs, the economy, getting along around all the things we like, and having a great time, right? That's more of the Trump nationalist stuff. Not that I agree with everything he's doing either, but he's generally doing a good job not making you too uncomfortable to live in your own skin and too uncomfortable with each other to communicate well, and then constantly worrying about that like Trudeau does. Trump's like, Everybody wants a job. Everybody loves this country. Everybody should respect each other and respect where we live. And everybody should try and make it great again and make it better. Yay! In Canada, Trudeau is like, we need a gender parliament because women are not doing well enough because men suck. And we need to make sure 50% of our parliamentarians are women, and we aren't quite there yet. So we need to, then all the guys are like, okay, we all suck. Can't be comfortable in our own skin. Women are like, we all suck. The guys all suck. Sucks to be with guys who sucks, and sucks to be a woman with guys who suck. Or Canada is racist, sexist, and phobic, and we have to apologize for being so racist, sexist, and phobic. And our history is one of horrible tragedies against the Aboriginals and Natives. And so we're like, sucks. Canada sucks. We all suck. It's racist, sexist, phobic. I have to worry about everything I say and do. So you can't be comfortable in your own skin. And then when people are constantly paranoid, about how they are acting or talking and everybody else, the globalist sellout that he is can destroy Canada's economy. Add carbon taxes, sign us to the UN Global Compact for migration, which demands open borders policies around the world, sexualize kids, open borders, jack up taxes, weaken the economy, don't allow Canada, which has tons of resources and not that many people, just like 35 million people and the second largest country in the world full of resources, say, no, we're all broke, it's bad for the earth, don't use your oil, don't use your rocks, don't use your trees, sell them to China, don't use them, it's bad for the earth, everybody pay more for everything, even though you have more than enough for everybody who lives here and the rest of the world for the next 100 years. No, worry about yourself and everybody else, and not being good at being men and women who can respect each other and communicate well. No, and not living in a nice place, in a nice country. Worry about just not being cool in your own skin or with other people, and not thinking you live in a cool place, and then bam, destroy the economy, weaken the people, destroy the economy, weaken the people, destroy the economy, weaken the people, take down the country for the globalist takeover as part of globalism and what nationalism is fighting against. So before the October 2019 election, and this can be done by people anywhere in the world, I recommend you try promoting polite patriotism, nonpartisan polite patriotism, where you can say, like I said to the cute little Antifa girls who I talk to, and I'll say to anybody, I'll say, look, I want to make sure people act nice enough to talk, right? Everybody likes being nice. So if you're left-wing or right-wing, if you're parents out there raising kids, right, it's important to say, look, it doesn't matter, right? Like, yes, ultimately we're going to discuss things and have to vote for conservatives or liberals or hardcore liberals or greenies or whatever, right? Or libertarians or whatever, right? But we have to make sure we can respect each other and communicate well so that we can make the best decisions. So before October 2019 in Canada, I think it'd be a great idea if people were to promote that, were to have meetings, have meet and greet tables, use posters and flyers, drop them off in your neighbor's mailboxes, leave them on cars, and you get a little thing, say, hey, we should promote be nice. So we can all be nice, we can all be in a better mood, we can all look, talk, and feel great, and we can discuss fun or serious stuff well. Doesn't make a difference, right? We're just better people to do anything with, right? We're making better people and a better place to live. Now, if you're like, I'm a conservative. I believe in the conservatives. If you're like, well, I'm a liberal. I've been a liberal all my life. I'm proud to be a liberal. I'm proud to be part of that tribe. And I'd never vote conservative in my life. And conservative, I'd never vote liberal in my life. But no problem. No problem. Can you talk about what's going on with each other? Can you discuss these things? Or do you just make it impossible to? Right? Because ultimately, if you can't talk to people you disagree with, and this is definitely on the radical left side, you also soon, if not already, won't be able to talk to each other because you're not used to communicating, challenging, explaining your opinions, evolving your opinions, defending them, making sure they're correct, right? So the same people that can't talk to people they disagree with then can't talk to each other. This is definitely happening on the left-wing liberal side of things, but it could also happen on the conservative side of things too. Make no mistake about it, right? When it comes to the globalist communism, there's the globalists are like, well, look, we want to control both sides of this wrestling match at the top when it comes to mainstream liberals and mainstream conservatives, right? We just want to use the liberals to change cultures more, to weaken them so we can control people and the countries they're in easier, right? Which means we've got to have controlled opposition on the conservative side that's supposed to lose. So you can have debates between controlled liberals and controlled conservatives at the top of the hierarchy. And you could have liberals say, we need this, we need a carbon tax, we need that, blah, blah, blah. And you can have the conservatives say, well, you know, we don't need that many carbon taxes. We don't need a carbon tax at all on carbon dioxide, what we exhale. You know, as part of the carbon cycle, humans exhale it, mammals exhale it, plants inhale it, put back out oxygen into the air mixture, hardly affects the earth, right? It's nothing. But again, if you can't respect each other and communicate, and if you make sure that anybody who disagrees can't, because you won't let them talk, you'll censor them one way or another, online or offline, then screwed, right? And so at the top, they want to control, both the liberals and conservatives, but they want the liberals to win more often because they push for more changes, and they want the conservatives to lose more often because they're trying to preserve the way things are, and the globalists try to destroy and change all of that. So to sort of beat that, you've got to go with what appeals to everybody, right? Does everybody want to be a nice person and deal with nice people who can respect each other and communicate well? Does everybody want respect? Does everybody want to teach their kids to show and get respect? Does everybody want to live in a nice country with nice people or go to hell? Right? That's why this is so important, because this is how you appeal to everybody. And I've got millions of people in Toronto on video, and I've got the history at manforwars.com of what's been happening you could look into. But ultimately, you can do it if there's some serious, push behind it, then it'll succeed anywhere. But if there isn't, it'll just be something that people act like lying, bitchy, sketchy, commie zombies to. They'll do it because that's all they do if they like it, or they'll do it to try and stop you because they hate it. And again, that's how the communists killed millions of people in the 20th century, and how they're killing millions of people today as part of the globalist brainwashing, right? So, anyway, I just wanted to get through that, and as I said, locally fight for polite or don't talk offline, and just type to strangers in the borderless matrix, because that's what you're looking for. That's what you're looking for. You're looking to locally fight for polite, locally fight to make sure people where you live act nice enough to talk. Or you won't be able to talk offline. You'll just have to fashionably act gender neutral, bitchy and sketchy with each other, and not really be able to talk to each other, pay attention to each other, fight harder and harder to get attention, and then like a cry bully, in a passive-aggressive way, force people to put up with you, which makes it even harder to talk, so you have to do it more and more and more. And then online, you can take your frustrations typing to strangers in the borderless matrix, where you can be like, well, maybe somebody over here agrees, maybe somebody over there agrees, and all of that weakens your ability to communicate like mature adults, raising confident kids to. That's all part of a longer-term plan and agenda based on what you can reverse engineer if you understand globalism from a deeper perspective. So there you have it. I do hope some of that helps. I know that there are people around the world that are basically going through some of these things and that are suffering from this. And I hope this big picture explanation can help you sort of work that out where you live, and that's my goal. So, BK Black Krishna for manfowars.com. Feel free to comment or subscribe or get in touch with any questions or answers, or donate and financially support the Man for Wars efforts. You can see the description below. That's the most important thing. Money, power, respect, success for these things will breed more. Otherwise, you won't have it. You won't have people believing it because they don't find people believing it. And as part of the commie zombification process, they'll just agree to be more and more commie zombie-like, as opposed to saying, you know what, we're going to take a chance on this be nice to people thing working, so we can really figure out what's going on and figure out how to make it better today and tomorrow, right? Which is ultimately what will work better than what's working now. And there you have it. BK Black Krishna from manforwars.com. Hope this helps, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.